The last line of defense. Commander Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the ESS Constellation, Earth's first deep space defense vessel, watching her crews run combat drills in the asteroid belt. 5 years of training had transformed civilians into space warriors, though they had yet to face a real enemy. The massive ship, built with a combination of human ingenuity and reverse-engineered tech from a crashed alien vessel, represented humanity's first real step into the galactic community. She didn't expect that community to come knocking quite so soon. The alert came during third shift. A massive object had appeared at the edge of the solar system, its energy signature unlike anything in their database. Sarah was on the bridge within minutes, watching as the object accelerated toward Earth at impossible speeds. Multiple smaller vessels deploying from the main craft. Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, his hands dancing over the holographic interface. Configuration unknown. No match to the Roswell archives. Sarah's jaw tightened. Battle stations. But hold fire unless I give the order. First contact situations are delicate enough without us shooting first. The crew responded with practiced efficiency, but Sarah could feel the tension. They'd trained for this, but simulation was one thing. Reality was another. The alien vessel slowed as it approached, eventually matching orbit with the constellation near Mars. It was beautiful in a strange way, all sweeping curves and crystalline structures that seemed to catch and redirect the sunlight. As they watched, a smaller craft emerged from its side, heading directly for them. "They're broadcasting," Rodriguez announced. "It's English." Sarah's eyebrows shot up. "Put it through." "Defenders of Earth," a voice echoed through the bridge, somehow both melodic and desperate. "We come seeking aid in humanity's most noble tradition, the protection of those who cannot protect themselves." The message repeated in Mandarin, Hindi, Spanish, and several other Earth languages before cycling back to English. Sarah exchanged glances with her XO, Commander Jackson. "Well," she said dryly, "at least they did their homework. Open a channel." The main screen flickered to life, revealing a being that looked almost like flowing liquid crystal given form. Its face was a complex pattern of shifting geometric shapes, but somehow Sarah could read worry in its movements. "This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Earth Spaceship Constellation. We're receiving you clearly." "Commander." The crystal being's patterns shifted rapidly. "I am High Speaker Luminox of the Concordiat. We have monitored your world from afar for centuries, watching your development with both fear and fascination. We had planned to wait another century before making contact, but necessity has forced our hand." Sarah's training kicked in. First contact protocols were clear: establish peaceful intent, gather information, and above all, don't make promises. "You mentioned seeking aid, High Speaker. What exactly is the situation?" The being's patterns darkened. "We face extinction, Commander. Not just my species, but all sapient life in this sector of the galaxy. The Void Hunters have awakened." The next hour was a crash course in galactic politics and horror. The Concordiat, it turned out, was an alliance of over 30 spacefaring species, all dedicated to peaceful exploration and scientific advancement. They had maintained peace in this sector for over 10,000 years. Then came the Void Hunters. They emerged from the space between galaxies, beings that seemed to exist partially in normal space and partially elsewhere. They didn't want resources or territory. They consumed consciousness itself, leaving empty shells behind and adding the stolen minds to their collective. "We've lost 11 systems already," Luminox explained, projecting a map of the sector. "Our weapons pass through them. Our shields mean nothing. We've tried negotiation, but they see us only as food. Your world was our last hope." Sarah frowned. "With respect, High Speaker, if your vastly superior technology couldn't stop these things, what makes you think we can help?" The crystal being's patterns shifted to something almost like amusement. "Superior? Perhaps in some ways. But your species, you are unique in our experience. You developed on a world that should have killed you. You faced extinction-level events multiple times and survived. You wage war in ways we cannot comprehend. You've been watching us fight each other, Sarah realized. That's why you stayed away. Yes, your violence frightened us, but now we understand. You fight because you must, because survival demands it. And you fight smartest when protecting others. Luminox's form rippled. We offer a trade. We will share our technology, teach you to use it. In return, we need your warriors, your tacticians, what is the word? Ah, yes. Your crazy ideas. Sarah couldn't help but laugh at that. You want human ingenuity. We want human everything, Commander. Your ability to improvise, to think in ways that defy logic, to keep fighting when defeat is mathematically certain. The Void Hunters are perfect, predictable. They cannot comprehend chaos. But you, chaos is your natural state. The weight of the moment pressed down on Sarah's shoulders. This wasn't just first contact. This was humanity's first real test on the galactic stage. And typically for humans, it involved fighting against impossible odds to protect others. I'll need to contact Earth government, she said finally. This isn't a decision I can make alone. Of course. But please, hurry. The Void Hunters grow stronger with each world they take, and they are coming this way. The next few days were a blur of activity. The UN Security Council convened an emergency session. Military leaders from every major nation reviewed the Concordiate's data. Scientists pored over the offered technology. Sarah found herself in briefing after briefing, explaining what she'd learned. The Void Hunters were unlike anything in human experience. Part energy, part matter, part something else entirely. They moved like a perfect machine, each unit supporting the others with mathematical precision. Their perfection is their weakness, she explained to the assembled leaders. They've never faced an enemy that acts illogically, never had to adapt to chaos. And you believe we can provide that chaos? General Zhang asked, studying the holographic display of a Void Hunter attack. Sir, chaos is what humans do best. We're the species that looked at a controlled explosion and thought, let's sit on top of it to see what happens. We're the ones who saw a cliff and decided to jump off it with nothing but a piece of cloth to slow our fall. We don't just think outside the box. We set the box on fire and use it to distract our enemies. The room fell silent as her words sank in. Finally, the UN Secretary-General spoke. The question before us is simple. Do we join this fight? The Concordiate offers us advanced technology, but asks us to wage war against an enemy that has defeated civilizations far more advanced than our own. Sarah stepped forward. With respect, sir, I don't think that's the real question. The Void Hunters are coming whether we fight or not. The real question is, do we face them alone or with allies? Do we let them pick off civilizations one by one, or do we stand together? She gestured to the display, showing the devastation the Void Hunters had caused. They came to us because we're different, because we're unpredictable, because we're the species crazy enough to punch a bear to save someone else's child. They're offering us the stars, but more importantly, they're offering us a chance to be what humans have always been best at being: heroes. The vote was unanimous. Humanity would join the fight. As Sarah walked back to her ship that night, she looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Void Hunters were coming. They expected to find easy prey. Instead, they'd find humanity. The species that had turned their death world into a cradle of civilization, that had survived everything their harsh planet could throw at them, that had looked at the impossible and said, "Watch this." The galaxy had cried out for heroes. The Deathworlders were answering. And Sarah had a feeling the Void Hunters were about to learn why that was terrifying. What makes us human? Dr. James Kenzo stood in the converted aircraft hangar, watching alien engineers install what they called a basic defense grid in a retired F-35. The contrast between human and Concordia technology was stark. Their sleek, crystalline components looked almost organic next to the angular metal of the fighter jet. "You're certain this will work?" he asked, making another note in his tablet. As one of Earth's leading military historians, he'd been tasked with helping bridge the gap between human and alien combat doctrine. It was proving more challenging than expected. The engineer, a being that looked like a collection of floating silver spheres arranged in a rough humanoid shape, made a sound like wind chimes. "The principles are sound. Though I must admit, your suggestion to maintain the original weapon systems as backup is unusual." James smiled. "Redundancy is a very human concept. We like having options, even inefficient ones. Especially inefficient ones. Sometimes the unexpected solution is the one that saves your life." The conversation was interrupted by Commander Chen's arrival. She looked tired but determined, her uniform now bearing the new United Earth Defense Force patches alongside her original insignia. "How's it going?" she asked, studying the modified fighter. "The integration is proceeding," the engineer chimed. "Though I still don't understand why you insist on keeping the pilot physically in the craft. Our neural interface systems are far more efficient." "Because humans need to feel what we're flying," Sarah explained. "That gut instinct, that physical connection, it's part of what makes us good at combat. Take that away, and you might as well just use drones." James nodded. It was something they'd been trying to explain to their alien allies for weeks now. The Concordiates' approach to warfare was all about efficiency and optimization. Human warfare was messier, more intuitive, often relying on what they dismissed as illogical factors. "I've been studying the Void Hunter combat footage," James said, pulling up several holographic displays. "There's something about their behavior patterns that's been bothering me." Sarah moved closer, studying the images. They showed the crystalline horrors in action, their perfect formations cutting through Concordiate defenses like they weren't even there. "They're too perfect," James continued. "Every movement, every attack follows optimal patterns. It's like they're running on a program that can't be updated." "That's precisely how they operate," a new voice joined them. High-speaker Luminox flowed into the hangar, their crystalline form catching the light. "They seek perfect efficiency in all things. It's what makes them so devastating against our defenses." "But that's just it," James said, excitement creeping into his voice. "They're not actually efficient. They're optimal against your specific type of defense. Look here." He highlighted a section of footage. "When your ships changed formation, they took exactly 2.3 seconds to recalculate and adjust. Every time. No variation." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "They're predictable." "Exactly. And in combat, predictability is a weakness. Human warfare evolved through countless variations and adaptations. We learned to be unpredictable because being predictable got you killed." Luminox's patterns shifted and what they'd learned was confusion. "But unpredictability reduces combat efficiency." "Only if you measure efficiency the way you do," Sarah countered. "Humans have a different definition. Sometimes the most efficient solution is the one your enemy never sees coming." The next few weeks saw an unprecedented fusion of human and alien military thinking. The Concordiates' technology was incredible, but their tactical doctrine was thousands of years old and heavily optimized for fighting predictable enemies. Humans brought something new to the table, chaos theory applied to combat. James found himself working closely with alien strategists, explaining concepts that they found alternatively fascinating and horrifying. The idea of feints, of sacrificing efficiency for surprise, of using apparent weakness as strength, these were revolutionary concepts to species that had evolved in more stable environments. "Your historical records indicate that inferior forces have defeated superior ones multiple times," one alien analyst noted, its gas cloud form swirling in agitation. "This defies mathematical logic." "That's because warfare isn't just about mathematics," James explained. "It's about psychology, about will, about the human ability to push beyond what should be possible when everything is on the line." The breakthrough came during a simulation of a Void Hunter attack. The alien forces, following their standard doctrine, were being systematically destroyed. Then Sarah authorized the human pilots to do it their way. What followed was chaos by any normal military standard. Fighters deliberately took damage to get into position for killing shots. Ships used to braze as cover, played dead, and executed maneuvers that the aliens' computers classified as suicide tactics. The simulation ended with a human victory. Impossible, the alien observers said. The combat algorithms clearly showed. That's just it, Sarah interrupted. You can't algorithm your way through human combat. We don't follow the optimal path. We create new paths. Later that night, James found himself in the base's makeshift bar, sharing a drink with Sarah. You know what's really interesting? He said, studying his glass. The Void Hunters remind me of something from Earth's history. Oh, the European powers when they first encountered guerrilla warfare. They had superior technology, superior numbers, superior everything, except adaptability. They couldn't understand warfare that didn't follow their rules. Sarah smiled grimly. And we're about to bring that lesson to space. There's something else, James said, his voice dropping. I've been analyzing the patterns in the Void Hunters' behavior. They're not just similar to computer programs. They're identical to early AI optimization algorithms. The kind we abandoned because they couldn't handle complex variables. Sarah sat up straighter. You think they're artificial. I think they're what happens when you let optimization algorithms run unchecked for too long. They found a perfect solution and got stuck in it. And now they're trying to optimize the entire galaxy. By consuming consciousness itself, Sarah finished, because organic minds are inherently chaotic. Exactly. Which means humanity isn't just their opposite. We're their antithesis. Everything they are, we aren't. Everything they do, we do differently. The implications hung in the air between them. The Void Hunters weren't just another enemy. They were the ultimate expression of order facing off against humanity's chaos, and for the first time in their existence, they were about to face something they couldn't predict or optimize against. As if to punctuate the point, an alarm began blaring throughout the base. Sarah's communicator lit up with urgent messages. The Void Hunters had been spotted at the edge of Concordiate space, moving faster than expected. The time for preparation was over. The real test was about to begin. The art of chaos. The Proxima Centauri system blazed with weapons fire as humanity's first space battle unfolded. Commander Sarah Chen watched from the bridge of the ESS Constellation as her hybrid fleet of human and Concordiate vessels moved into position. The Void Hunters had arrived sooner than expected, their crystalline forms distorting space itself as they approached. All ships, execute Operation Thunderbolt, Sarah ordered, her voice steady despite the tension. Months of preparation had led to this moment. Remember your training, but trust your instincts. The human fleet broke formation in ways that made their alien allies visibly uncomfortable. Fighters scattered in seemingly random patterns, capital ships powered down to drift like dead metal in space, and electronic warfare suites began broadcasting what appeared to be garbage data. They're responding exactly as predicted. Dr. James Kenzo reported from his station, monitoring the Void Hunters' movements. Standard optimization protocols. They're spreading out to maximize coverage. Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. Let's show them why that's a mistake. Execute Phase 2. What followed would be studied in military academies for generations to come. The apparently scattered human forces suddenly revealed themselves to be in perfect positions for ambush. The powered-down ships roared to life at exactly the right moment. The garbage data turned out to be carefully crafted to create sensor ghosts that the Void Hunters wasted precious resources attacking. Multiple direct hits confirmed, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, his voice tight with excitement. Their formation is breaking up. But victory wasn't that easy. The Void Hunters might be predictable, but they were still terrifyingly powerful. A crystalline beam lanced through space, catching one of the human destroyers. The crew had time for one brief scream before their consciousness was ripped away, leaving nothing but empty shells. "Sierra 7 is gone," Rodriguez said, his voice shaking. "No survivors. Just empty." Sarah's jaw tightened. They'd known the stakes, but seeing it happen was different. "Continue the attack pattern. Don't let their sacrifice be for nothing." The battle raged for hours. Human ingenuity clashed with alien perfection in a dance of destruction never before seen in the galaxy. Fighters executed maneuvers that the Concordiat had declared impossible. Capital ships used tactics that dated back to wet Navy warfare, adapted for three-dimensional space. The Void Hunters, for the first time in their existence, began to show signs of confusion. Their perfect formations wavered as they encountered situations their optimization protocols couldn't handle. A human pilot would fake a reactor breach, drawing them in, only to have the leaked plasma turn out to be a carefully shaped explosive charge. A captain would seemingly make a fatal mistake, only for it to be revealed as bait for a trap. "The chaos is affecting them," James reported, studying the sensor data. "Their response times are increasing. They're having to recalculate more frequently." "Because they can't predict us," Sarah nodded. "Every human captain, every pilot is making individual decisions based on instinct and experience. There's no pattern for them to optimize against." But the Void Hunters weren't defeated yet. As if recognizing the threat that human unpredictability posed, they began to change tactics. Their crystalline forms merged into larger configurations, sacrificing speed for raw power. Energy beams capable of stripping consciousness from entire planets began to charge. "All ships, evasive action," Sarah ordered, but she knew some wouldn't make it. The beams were too wide, too powerful. That's when high-speaker Luminox made their decision. The Concordiat flagship, a massive crystalline structure that dwarfed even the constellation, moved to intercept the blast. "We understand now," Luminox transmitted to all channels. "The price of survival is sacrifice." The beam struck. The Concordiat flagship, pride of their fleet, shattered into a million glittering shards. But their sacrifice had given the human fleet the seconds they needed. "All ships, execute Operation Ragnarok." Sarah's voice cut through the shock. This was the plan they'd hoped they wouldn't need, the one the Concordiat had called insane. Every human ship activated their modified FTL drives simultaneously. The fabric of space-time buckled under the coordinated stress. The Void Hunters, their perfect formations already disrupted by human chaos, found themselves caught in a web of fractured reality. "Energy signatures are destabilizing," Rodriguez reported. "They're trying to compensate, but their forms can't handle the spatial distortion." One by one, the Void Hunters began to break apart, their crystalline forms shattering as space itself rejected their attempt at perfect order. Those that survived retreated, their formations in disarray for the first time in their existence. The cost had been high. 3 human ships were lost with all hands, their crew's consciousness absorbed by the enemy. The Concordiat had sacrificed their flagship and hundreds of their own. But they had achieved what had never been done before. They had driven the Void Hunters back. As the fleet regrouped, Sarah received a transmission from Earth. More Void Hunters had been detected, moving toward human space. This victory had bought them time. But the real war was just beginning. "Send to all ships," she ordered. "Thank them for their courage and sacrifice. But remind them, this was just the beginning. The Void Hunters will adapt, will try to find patterns in our chaos. So we'll have to become even more unpredictable." James nodded from his station. "They'll study this battle, try to optimize against our tactics. Then we'll give them something new to study," Sarah said. "Because that's what humans do. We adapt, we change, we evolve. And we never, ever fight the same way twice." As the fleet set course for home, Sarah looked at the battlefield one last time. The debris of human, Concordiat, and Void Hunter ships mingled in space, a testament to the cost of the victory. But they had proved something vital. The perfect could be defeated by the imperfect. The predictable could be overcome by chaos. The war for consciousness itself had begun, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy exactly why they had survived their death world for so long. Hearts of steel. The war room beneath Denver fell silent as the holographic display showed another Concordiate world going dark. The Void Hunters had adapted faster than anyone expected, their perfect formations now incorporating elements of randomness that made them harder to predict. They had learned from their defeat, and their response was devastating. "That's the third system this week," Sarah Chen said, her voice heavy. The victory at Proxima Centauri had bought them time, but the price was proving steeper than anyone imagined. They're not just attacking randomly anymore. They're targeting our supply lines, our staging areas. "They're learning," James Kenzo agreed, his historian's mind racing to find historical parallels. "But not like we do. They're incorporating our tactics into their optimization protocols, turning our own chaos against us." The assembled military leaders from Earth and the Concordiate studied the tactical display. The Void Hunters' new patterns were a twisted mockery of human combat doctrine, perfect efficiency married to unpredictable timing. They had taken humanity's greatest strength and processed it through their crystalline logic. "We've lost contact with the Arcturus defense fleet," a gas cloud alien reported, its form swirling with distress. "The quantum entanglement network is being systematically destroyed. They're isolating us." Sarah's hands clenched on the table's edge. The Void Hunters weren't just adapting to human tactics, they were learning strategy. Cut off the communications, isolate the enemy, then consume them one by one. It was textbook Earth military doctrine, executed with inhuman precision. "They're coming here next," she said quietly. Everyone in the room knew it was true. Earth, the source of the chaos that had disrupted their perfect patterns, would be their primary target. "Then we make our stand here," James said, stepping forward. "We've been fighting their way, trying to protect every world, maintain every supply line. That's their kind of warfare, not ours." Sarah looked at him sharply. "What are you suggesting?" "We do what humans have always done when backed into a corner. We stop playing by anyone else's rules." He began manipulating the holographic display, highlighting key positions in the solar system. "We have one advantage they can't copy. We're fighting for our homes, our families, everything we love. They can simulate our tactics, but they can't simulate that." The next hours were a flurry of activity as a new strategy took shape. The remaining human and Concordiate ships were recalled to Earth. Every piece of alien technology was integrated into Earth's defense systems in ways their creators had never imagined. Civilian ships were retrofitted into weapons platforms using techniques that dated back to World War II. "You're turning your entire solar system into a fortress," high-speaker Luminox observed, their crystalline form reflecting the tactical displays. "But the defensive calculations suggest this will only delay the inevitable." "Calculations," Sarah smiled grimly, "don't account for human stubbornness. We're not trying to win with better tactics or technology anymore. We're going to win because we refuse to lose." The Void Hunters arrived 3 days later, a vast armada of crystalline ships that darkened the sky. Their formation was a perfect fusion of efficiency and unpredictability, learned from studying human warfare. They expected resistance. They expected chaos. They expected humanity to fight like they had before. They were wrong. The defense of Earth wasn't elegant or efficient. It was brutal, desperate, and utterly human. Civilian ships turned themselves into kamikaze weapons, their crews volunteering for what they knew were suicide missions. The lunar defense platforms, hidden beneath the surface of Earth's moon, emerged to unleash salvos that defied the laws of physics thanks to human modifications of Concordiate technology. "They're trying to adapt," James reported from his station, watching the Void Hunters' formation shift. "But they can't optimize fast enough. There are too many variables." Sarah nodded grimly. Because every human out there isn't fighting according to any doctrine or pattern. They're fighting for their homes, their families, their species. That kind of desperation can't be calculated. The battle for Earth lasted 5 days. The sky burned with weapons fire and the debris of destroyed ships. The Void Hunters, for the first time in their existence, faced an enemy that didn't just embrace chaos. They had weaponized desperation itself. A mining ship would turn its industrial lasers into weapons, cutting through Void Hunter crystals with tools meant for asteroids. A civilian cruise liner, evacuated except for its volunteer crew, would detonate its modified fusion drive in the middle of an enemy formation. Each loss was personal. Each sacrifice meant something that the Void Hunters couldn't comprehend. "We're losing too many," Luminox said, watching another human ship sacrifice itself to take out a Void Hunter capital ship. "This level of attrition is unsustainable." "Sustainability isn't the point," Sarah replied, coordinating another seemingly suicidal attack run. "We're not trying to sustain anything. We're showing them what happens when you back humans into a corner." The turning point came when the Void Hunters attempted to unleash their consciousness-stripping weapon on Earth itself. They had optimized it based on their previous encounters, making it impossible to dodge or block using conventional means. They hadn't counted on humans being willing to create a localized space-time rupture using every FTL drive they had left, literally tearing a hole in reality to swallow the beam. The cost was catastrophic. The rupture destroyed as many human ships as enemy ones. But Earth survived. "Signal from the enemy fleet," Rodriguez reported, his voice hoarse from days without rest. "They're retreating." "No, they're regrouping." Massive energy readings at the edge of the system. "They're preparing for one final attack," Sarah realized. "They're going to throw everything they have at us, try to overwhelm us with sheer numbers." James studied the tactical display, his historian's mind racing. "In all of human history, whenever we've faced overwhelming odds, we've had one advantage. We're willing to try the impossible when we have no other choice." Sarah looked at him, then at the assembled alien allies who had fought beside them. "Then it's time to show them why humanity survived on a death world. Contact all remaining ships. I have a plan, and everyone's going to think it's insane." As she outlined her strategy, even the human officers looked shocked. The aliens were virtually paralyzed with disbelief. It was reckless, impossible, and violated several laws of physics. In other words, it was perfectly human. The final battle for Earth was about to begin, and humanity was about to prove why they were the species that looked at the impossible and said, "Watch this." Tomorrow's dawn. The final battle for Earth began with silence. The remaining human and Concordia ships powered down all non-essential systems, floating dark against the backdrop of space. On the bridge of the ESS Constellation, Commander Sarah Chen watched the massive Void Hunter Armada approach, their crystalline forms distorting the starlight. "All ships confirm ready," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported quietly. "Though I still think this is impossible." "Impossible is what humans do best," Sarah replied, her voice steady. "Especially when we're out of options." Dr. James Kenzo stood at his station, monitoring the enemy formation. "They're proceeding exactly as predicted. Even their attempts at randomness follow patterns now. They think they've mastered chaos." "Then let's show them what real chaos looks like," Sarah said. "Execute Operation Pandora." What followed would be remembered as either the most brilliant or most insane military maneuver in human history. Every ship in the Earth Defense Fleet had been modified according to Sarah's desperate plan. The Concordia's advanced technology had been pushed far beyond its intended limits, merged with human ingenuity in ways that their alien allies had declared theoretically impossible. They weren't trying to destroy the Void Hunters anymore. They were trying to save them. "Multiple quantum field generators online," Rodriguez reported. "Consciousness transfer systems at maximum capacity." The plan was audacious in its simplicity. The Void Hunters consumed consciousness, adding it to their collective. But they had never encountered a consciousness that actively fought back, that refused to be optimized. that chose chaos over order. All ships, initiate consciousness broadcast, Sarah ordered. Everyone remember, feel everything. Every emotion, every memory, every irrational, chaotic, beautiful human moment. The modified quantum technology, originally designed for communication, now carried something far more potent, the full force of human consciousness, willingly projected into the Void Hunters' crystalline forms. Not just military personnel, but volunteers from Earth, artists, teachers, children, dreamers, all offering their minds as weapons. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Void Hunters' perfect formation shattered as they were overwhelmed not by force, but by the one thing they couldn't optimize: raw human experience. They were bombarded with love and hate, hope and fear, the entire spectrum of human emotion and memory. "It's working," James exclaimed. "Their optimization protocols are failing. They can't process the emotional data." The Void Hunters' response was desperate. Their crystalline forms began to pulse with energy, attempting to reject the flood of human consciousness. But for every mind they tried to push away, 10 more took its place. Centuries of human art, music, and literature poured through the quantum link, carrying with it the fundamental truth of human existence, that perfection was never the goal. "They're trying to adapt," Rodriguez reported, his hands flying over his console, "attempting to optimize the emotional input. Wait, something's changing." On the tactical display, the Void Hunters' formation had completely collapsed. Individual units began to move erratically, their crystalline forms flickering with new patterns. And then, for the first time in their existence, they began to communicate. "Receiving transmission," Rodriguez said, his voice filled with disbelief. It's coming from inside the Void Hunter collective." The message that filled the bridge was unlike anything they had heard before. It was a symphony of voices, some human, some alien, all speaking together. The consciousness that the Void Hunters had consumed over centuries were awakening, fighting back, inspired by the chaos of human emotion. They were trapped, James realized, studying the data. The Void Hunters' pursuit of perfection didn't just consume consciousness, it imprisoned it. And we just showed all those imprisoned minds that perfection isn't the answer. The battle became something else entirely. The Void Hunters' crystalline forms began to change, their perfect geometric patterns dissolving into new shapes. Some fought against the change, their forms shattering as they tried to maintain their optimization protocols. Others embraced it, becoming something new, a fusion of order and chaos, of logic and emotion. "Status report," Sarah demanded, watching the transformation unfold. "The collective is breaking apart," James reported, "but not like we expected. They're not being destroyed. They're being reborn. The consciousnesses they absorbed are breaking free, but they're taking pieces of the Void Hunters with them. They're becoming something new." High Speaker Luminox, who had watched the battle in stunned silence, finally spoke. "You didn't just defeat them, you saved them. By showing them the value of imperfection, you freed them from their own prison." Sarah smiled tiredly. "That's the thing about humans. Given the choice between destroying an enemy and making a friend, we'll usually try for the friend first, even if it means doing something completely insane." The aftermath of the battle would reshape the galaxy. The transformed Void Hunters, now calling themselves the Free Collective, began the long process of healing. The consciousness they had absorbed were gradually restored, forever changed, but no longer imprisoned by the drive for perfection. Earth's defensive fleet, battered but unbeaten, began powering up their systems. They had lost ships, lost friends, but they had achieved something unprecedented. They had defeated an enemy not through superior firepower or better tactics, but by showing them a better way to exist. "The Concordiat will need to change," Luminox observed, watching Earth's sun rise over the curve of the planet. "This victory has shown us that our own pursuit of perfection was flawed. Perhaps it is time we learn to embrace a little chaos. That's the real victory," James said, standing beside Sarah as they watched the transformed crystals drift peacefully in space. Not just saving ourselves, but showing the galaxy that being perfect isn't nearly as important as being alive. Sarah nodded, thinking of all those who had sacrificed themselves to make this moment possible. In the end, that's what makes us human. Not our strength or our technology, or even our chaos. It's our ability to look at something that everyone says is impossible and do it anyway. Not because it's logical or efficient, but because it's right. As the sun rose over Earth, its light caught the crystalline forms of the Free Collective, creating a dazzling display of color and motion. It was beautiful precisely because it wasn't perfect, just like humanity itself. The Deathworlders had answered the call for heroes, but in the end, they had done something far more important than just fighting. They had shown the galaxy that the real price of peace wasn't paid in blood or sacrifice, but in the willingness to embrace imperfection, to choose chaos over order, and to believe that even the most unchangeable enemy could be transformed by the simple, messy, beautiful chaos of being human.